everybody. It's 7 o'clock in Los Angeles. We are celebrity adjacent, and we are located not 10 blocks from the ocean and 4 blocks from Ralph's. We're very excited. We're smelling produce as we speak. This is Humor Me. I'm Ed Crasnick. I'm your host, and this is a show that's all about comedy, all about entertainment from the people who create it. Writers, directors, actors, producers, filmmakers, and neurotic Jews. Tonight is it's highbrow Hebrew hijinks night here tonight. It's the Triple H Club. It's because, of course, Hebrew Sweeps is coming. The high howling days are coming. And, you know, when I think of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, of course, my body starts to curl in on itself because there's a lot of weight behind these things. It's the Jewish New Year, and then there's the days of judgment, which really, for a Jew, is every second. And so I remember these things where my father, I would walk to temple with him, and it seemed like a long walk. And then as we walked, it was like we got into like the dinosaur age, because we passed people who were so hunched over, and the beard was so heavy that it was dragging them. It was actually weighted beards. And then we'd go into, there was no, not like it is today. I don't know if you go, if you happen to be Jewish, if you go to temple, but if you go to temple today, it's like, there's a gospel choir, and there's like people are flying like they're in Spider-Man. It's like a crazy thing now. And I actually, if you go in LA, they have these celebrity, you know, it's sort of synagogue for the performing arts, it's called. And I went there once, and you literally hear these, it's like a telethon. Now coming to the stage to wish you a Happy New Year, she is working with the Sisterhood on a fundraising campaign. Please welcome soul sister Aretha Franklin. And she comes up, and then she's doing things. This is a different thing, but when I was a kid, I went with my father, and we sat, they could start a forest fire with these beards, and we're sitting there in the temple, and my father has a little wire that's coming out of his ear, and it's a transistor radio that's in his pocket, because it was the same time that the Red Sox were in the playoffs. And the rabbi is saying, and we need to be very careful about the way we treat each other. We should be kind to each other. This is very important. It's never been more important. And all of a sudden you hear from my father, oh my God, take him out! He's pitching like a crazy person. Take him out! So that is my best memory of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I have to tell you that, and I was just talking to one of our, we have a great show. I'm going to tell you who's here in just a minute. We're gonna start it off. We have music, we have comedy. This is a variety show. It's a night of 1,000 stars and 100 insecurities, I'm telling you right now. Obama, I think he's the president still. He was here, I think he was here this week. I didn't realize he was going to be here. And there was a motorcade, and I thought that they were reenacting the Kennedy assassination. That's how I thought. I thought there was some kind of theme show. Oliver Stone was shooting. It was a festival. But no, Obama was here, and LA responded to it beautifully. Apparently, the people who had done the show Happy Days are changing the character's name Fonzie because it sounds too much like Ponzi. I can't believe I went all that way for that. And then, of course, the president nowadays, you never see him outside. He meets everyone in the lobby. That's the rule. You have to meet in a lobby, because how else can you do business? Okay. And the last thing I'll talk about is please come to my new road rally race, the Ed Crasnick Panic 500. It's about managing stress while driving a sports car, because we're all under a lot of stress, but why not make it into a race? The Panic 500, and then I was talking with my friend here, who you'll meet in a little bit, about how in LA we try to make something into something else so we can sell it. You try to take everything and fit it into a small box called television, or a larger screen called, that are movies. But you try to fit it into that thing. You don't feel like you can be yourself and then the box will expand. You feel like you should be smaller and get in that box, fit inside of it. And it's happened in my relationship with my daughter. My daughter is reading these books. She's looking at Curious George. I'm watching it. It's a good show. And all of a sudden, I'm trying to make it so. Like, you know, this would be a great show, honey, if he was Furious George, and he was more edgy, and maybe there was two of them, and one of them was evil. You know, and so you can't live that way, and it trains you to be not accepting of who you are, which is what this show's all about. All right, tonight, amazing guest. Coming up in just a few minutes, just a little bit, a gentleman who is the winner of the San Francisco International Comedy Competition, which, if you knew what it was, I'm sure, and if you've heard of it, it's unbelievably grueling, and the fact that he won this with the sharp humor that he has is a testament to the kind of comedian he is. He's an actor, he's a comedian, he's a great host. HBO and Comedy Central, Johnny Steele is here, and you're going to meet him shortly. But right now, I went to a variety show that was in a family room in a house, and I met my next guests, my first guests. They are incredible entertainers, singer-songwriters, and married. And I don't really know how they do it, and I'm kind of angry about it. No, I don't know how they do it, but I'm going to find out. Would you please welcome Ginger Smith and Khalil Sabah.
Thanks, Ed.
A pleasure.
Thanks, brother.
I'm feeling low, so low. You went back to San Francisco. I'm feeling low, so low. I want you to know that city of love, that city of charms, where I used to live. Wrapped up in your arms, I'm feeling low, so low. I want you to know. And when the fog rolls in before your morning ends, well, you'll have your head up in a cloud, and I'll be here where the skies are clear, singing my pain out loud. I'm feeling low, so low I'll never go back to San Francisco. I'm feeling low, so low. I want you to know. And when the fog rolls in before your morning ends, well, you'll have your head up in a cloud, and I'll be right here where the skies are oh so clear, singing my pain out loud. I'm feeling low, so low I'll never go back to San Francisco. I'm feeling low, so low. I want you to know, yeah, I'm feeling low, and I want you to know, oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank
Ginger
you.
Smith, Khalil Sabah, and now I got to ask you guys: is it okay, Brandon? Is it okay if I? What happens? Yeah, that's not so good, is it?
Sit,
Hey, look
be
at that.
comfortable. Hey,
Look at that.
We want you to be comfortable.
There's my stomach. All right. No, we'll shoot you guys. We do dorsal.
That's
we
a
do
great
frontal.
shot right there.
Isn't that fantastic? Look at this. And really, you can trust me. Anyway, I have to ask you guys. You wrote that.
Yes.
So didn't I ask you? I came to you and I said, well, I want you to do that song, but we can't clear it because it's probably
How do you
somebody's
get
song.
the rights to that song?
Yeah.
And I said, just ask me.
How do you guys work? How do you write the songs that? How do you do this together? First of all, you're married and you have.
We
how
have
old,
twins.
How old?
We have.
Do you need this?
I don't know. I think I'm good, right? I'm good. Yeah.
He's good.
We have
I need
twins, boy-girl twins. They're 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
Boy-girl, and that takes a lot of our energy. But one thing that we said when we had kids, we were going to say that we're not going to let them control our lives to the point where we can't do our music and our performing and our art and all our artistic crazy endeavors and our little house salon thing that you were at. So we're doing everything, that we always did. It's just that we have to wipe butts between it all.
so for six, which is a show in itself.
Yeah.
So for six, I think it's on the A&E channel. So for 6
Wiping
years,
butts between it.
for 6 years, you've been doing. Tell people about what this is. Pozone. There's a show called Pozone.
Yeah.
Yes, Pozone's been going on for many, many years. But when we were looking for a house to buy several years back, we were kind of had this dream in the back of our mind, what if we found a house that we could host this event? And so when we found the house that we live in now, we said, this is perfect, and we took it over. And it just sort of blossomed into a really nice, great salon feel event for people to come and really work whatever they're working on.
So for once a month, people come in, and you could be a writer working on a piece, you could be a filmmaker, you could be a singer, you could be a comedian, and you in your family room, these people are performing. And when I was invited by somebody, I came there thinking, okay, we're in a family room. What are we going to do? It was like the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, it was like one of the best variety shows I've ever seen.
You probably weren't expecting the pyrotechnics and the
I wasn't expecting people to fly.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody fly in a room.
Well, I'm working on the apparatus that the people put the suit on and they fly around in there. That's like, that's in the works.
It's one of the combining community with performance is really something that makes you feel good.
We're really fortunate. We live in a town full of amazingly, wonderfully talented people, and not everybody gets a perfect spot to do everything they want to do. This gives them a chance to get up in front of an audience and do their passion and really express themselves in whatever way they want. And sometimes it's people who are learning a new instrument and they want to have the pressure of, it's a deadline, it's a thing to get done before this particular event. So it gives people motivation to keep working, to keep developing. We've had people in our group that have gone on to develop screenplays in our Pozone and then go on and continue on and make the films. Groups have come together, music groups have come together in our group. And just
one-man shows.
all kinds of amazing things have come out of it, have blossomed out of it.
We had a chef.
Yeah, we had a chef.
Because it was a potluck dinner.
And I asked you, and I said, has anybody ever have you recorded, have you filmed? And I know that someone comes sometimes and puts a camera up there, but the answer was, no, we don't.
No.
Because that's not what this is for.
Right.
No, it really isn't about people. It's not that kind of pressure where like, okay, you're gonna, this is gonna be on film, and some people are very protective about what they're working on, and they don't want it on film. And I've actually had people say, if there's anyone with a camera, please don't use it. This is because they're working their material.
Sure.
They're having this is a free, uncensored environment is really what we try to preach.
Yeah.
We really don't want people walking in there and feeling like they can't get up because it's some sort of judgment going on. This is really about people having the opportunity.
Although we have
to
had
work
people
it.
that have sucked. just
Well,
sucked.
You know, that's part of the creative process. It is for me, and has been for 20 years.
Yeah.
Now, it's, now,
Not that you're judging, right, Khalil?
I would never judge those. No.
you're gonna come to Temple with me, and we're gonna work it out with my father, who's passed away. All right, so now, okay, so you guys you're in different bands.
We
Like
are.
sometimes you'll be in a band, you'll be in a different band, you work together.
Yeah.
But I saw a video, and I wanted to play it. It's one of the bands that you're in, Ginger. It's,
Well, we're both
and
in.
you're in too.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And it's called
The Backboners.
The Backboners, and you made a video.
Yes.
You made it.
Yes.
Okay.
But can I just say, this stuff that we did tonight. This is from another band that we do, which is called Brother Derek.
It's called the Brother Derek Blues Band.
Oh, have we got that, guys?
That's the thing.
Yeah,
up
there it
Yeah,
is.
that's
The Brother Derek Blues Band is Ginger and myself and another bass player and a guitar player.
Drew Wicks
and
and
Chris Flanders. They're wonderful. And everyone in that band is married with children, and so
Okay.
we all understand. Hey, you can't make rehearsal.
That's
I gotta.
why we have the blues.
So
It's pure.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Plus, we do triathlons together.
Well, that's
Yeah.
very
The
exciting.
band that triathlons
So-
together.
Wiping and running.
Yeah.
But the clip that you have
Yes.
is from a 4-person vocal quartet, which is myself and Khalil and the amazing performer Susie Williams and an incredible songwriter, Bill Burnett.
Yeah, he is amazing.
He is amazing, and so we do that all over town as well.
Okay, so we're going to show this video, and then you guys will come back later in the show.
Okay.
Is that okay? All right, let's show this video. This is the Backboners, everybody, and then we're going to meet Mr. Johnny Steele.
He gave me blues for my breakfast, tears for my tea. Woe was me. You know you're ruthless and reckless, but now your cruel days are through. Woe is you. You thought that you got a tight knot around my heart. Now
Okay, that's the video from a group called the Backboners with Ginger Smith and Khalil Sabah that you've just seen do the song Feeling Low. But I'm feeling pretty high right now. In fact, I am high. No, I'm not. But the reason why I'm feeling high is I get to see an old friend and somebody who I respect and admire, and somebody who, you got such an interesting background, a great comedian, terrific writer, and somebody who, you're the greatest. All right, that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Johnny Steele, everybody. Give Johnny.
Thank
Good
you
to
for
see
having
you.
me, Ed. Good to be here.
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to say I don't want to jump ahead of your guest there. But when I was growing up in my family's family room, we had our own variety show called "You Want Something to Cry About? I'll Give You Something to Cry About."
Hour?
Yes, and it was every hour of the day.
Yeah.
And so these people are doing something great, but it's a little derivative of what we did.
Right, just
And
twisted.
I'll give you. Actually, it was a wooden spoon. My mother
Yeah.
used a wooden. My father was not violent, but my mother wooden spoon. You get the wooden spoon if you didn't.
Well, people in those days, they did talk to kids in a particular way. And the particular way was, I remember my mother with the phone, and they had the cord that wrapped so tightly. As she was wrapped emotionally, it had the cord, and it would actually spin her. Like she'd be talking to you, and then all of a sudden she'd go the other way.
Yeah.
But it was, I got these goddamn.
She was like a Hebrew telecommunication top of some kind. Let me just say, I'm not Jewish, really.
No.
Which explains partly my lack of success in this town. But I'll tell you what else. I want to wish Ed a happy Rosh Limbaugh, or whatever it is.
It is Rush Limbaugh.
I want to explain to the Goyish viewers. Apparently, 8,000 years ago, somebody got lost in the desert, and now you can't eat bread. Or is that the wrong one? I never know.
No, it's all about that. It's
that
somebody
was-
pursued us. They couldn't kill us, and we ate something.
And then you took over Hollywood. But I tell you what, I was a member of the Jewish Community Center in San Francisco for like 10 years.
love that.
It was a beautiful. It was in the basement, and there was like some 100-year-old guys down. There was an old equipment. Remember that?
Great.
It was
And it
great.
was connected to a senior center.
Yeah.
So elderly people would come in. In other words, we didn't put them in a different place and never talked to them. They actually were part of the community, and they came in, and we did shows, and we did all kinds. I did a show there one night. There was one person in the audience. I think they were not. I think they were dead, and they remained that way because I didn't bring them to life.
You didn't bring the room around.
No, I didn't bring it around.
Yeah.
Now, when you come to LA, and we're going to show this later. I have a little video from the show we did in San Francisco.
Oh my!
But when you come to LA, something happens to you. What is it that takes over, and why does it take over?
I almost immediately feel dead inside.
How long does that take? When does that start? And
You
how
know
does
when it starts? A little bit. I usually drive down and it's sort of like I just drive down because it's slower. I can take it. I
Yeah.
can take it if I drive. You fly down. Oh, I'm here. Disappointment. And so, but if I drive down little by little, I can get adjusted to it. The frog in the boiling water, warmer and warmer. And usually, the Grapevine, I start to feel a little nauseous.
Yeah.
And then, what is it, the 405, the San Diego freeway? By the way, it ends in like Santa Monica. Why doesn't Santa Monica get any billing on that? I think they need to talk to their manager. And then when you come right down, is it the 405? When you come right down into town and you see all the places where you had management that dumped you. The Will Ignore Us agency. Who is over there.
Who is with another agency now? They've turned into something else.
They merged.
Still ignoring us.
Still
Agency.
ignoring us. And so I just come down, and I did not have, I shouldn't say that. I had a development deal down here, and I did probably as many as 20 TV, stand-up comedy shows down here. But and a lot of my friends came down here, you and others, and have had great success. It was a mistake. I should have come down, but when I came down, I wanted to be the next Lenny Bruce. That's what I wanted to do. My brother is a journalist. I respected his work. I had other friends whose work I liked, and I found a Lenny Bruce album years ago in a thrift store, and it destroyed my career, quite frankly. Because this is when Reagan is in office, and comedy is all about the sleeves pushed up. Hey, ladies, why do you go to the bathroom in pairs?
Sure.
And what's with the peanuts on airplanes?
Sure.
And there was Bill Hicks, and there were the guys out of Austin, and there were some people out of San Francisco and other places. But I wanted to be the next Lenny Bruce, and I started to have some success with that, performing in San Francisco and Berkeley and Marin and Santa Cruz. And then I won the San Francisco comedy competition and came down here, and I got a little resistance about that, a lot of resistance about maybe finding a broader audience and not trying to appeal to San Francisco, which is a brilliant marketing idea. Comedian Tom Rhodes once said, Johnny, perhaps you haven't heard, but LA is where the cameras are plugged in.
Yeah,
Apparently,
it's
he's
true.
right.
It's true, but but could you be happy? Could you be yourself? Could you be as much as you are in your performance and still turn it that way? What would that do to your performance?
Well, there are guys who came down from LA. We know them. They were in San Francisco. I shan't name them because they don't need any more credits and any more press.
Sure.
But there were guys who came down here and did sort of, I hate to use a cliche, but push the envelope and were kind of different than what was being served up on the evenings at the improv shows in the late 80s.
Sure.
I found it always hard to do. And then there was the comedy, but then there was during the daytime. And they would say, this actually happened. Somebody saw you doing stand-up, and they think you'd be great for this Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. And I said, I've been a vegetarian for 25 years, and I certainly don't want to sell some tortured sweatshop chicken poison crap to lure obese people and eat this garbage. I can't be the guy to do. And they were, you don't say that.
Right.
This happened also with another sitcom that she'll go unnamed years ago. I auditioned for something else. The casting director for the project that didn't go ended up at another project and said, called my management and said, we think Johnny is good for the semi-retarded truck driving brother who comes in about every 2 episodes. And, and I don't know, maybe I was idealistic and I was young and stupid, and maybe I should have come and done those things. But at the time, I was an angry young punk. And I would come down here and get this attitude from these management people and whatnot. And God bless them, they know what they're doing, right? They're trying to make you famous and rich, and themselves in the process. And I remember flying home, and don't get me wrong, people in LA, it's a lovely town, you've got some wonderful things here, but I would fly home to LA, to San Francisco, and I remember walking a street called Clement Street, Clement Street.
Sure.
And there were 3 bookstores in 3 blocks between 3rd and 6th Street. And there was a great, sort of New York calzone pizza place called Giorgio's.
Sure.
And I had a motorcycle, and I remember going home and just riding my motorcycle to Clement Street. Now it's July. I was down here, it was like hot, smoggy. I flew home, And I remember walking up Clement Street, and the fog was rolling in, and you would go from bookstore to bookstore, and people were all over the streets. And then you would end up at the Holy City Zoo, which was a comedy club at 6th and Clement. And after we would go to Toy Boat, which was a pastry shop that had antique toys from our childhood. Not really like, Victorian toys, but antique toys from our childhood. And it was just, maybe I was lazy. I certainly was lazy. I was maybe a little frightened. People say maybe you were frightened you would come down here and maybe not be successful or whatever. But those were things that happened, and I was young, I was a kid, and I just thought, I want to go up here and do this thing, man. And
but you're you got an unusual, it's a different kind of story because you grew up in Pittsburgh, California.
There are like 8 Pittsburghs. People don't really know that in the United States.
This is Pittsburgh, California. And
outside of San Francisco, about 45 miles outside of San Francisco.
But you grew up in that environment that was pretty conservative, I want to say, maybe conservative.
Socially. There were blue collar folks, so they were Democrats, but it was conservative.
It was conservative, and grew up playing football.
Yeah.
And grew up a meat-eating guy playing football.
Yeah.
All right. So what happened? What was the turning? How did it change you into being political satire and vegetarian and heavily ecological and going green and all this stuff that you became?
I wish there was one concise answer, which I never have one concise. I wish I could say that my mother was caught in a burning building and a cow and carried her out or something like that, and I was forever changed by it. But it was just a series of events. My brother's a journalist. He was older than I. I mean, I had a cousin who was a professor. I had another cousin who was a vegetarian. I thought it was the craziest thing I'd ever heard. And he said, how many animals are killed and how much water and how much land. I mean, you don't need to eat those things. You're eating them because you've been told to. Nobody gives more free material to schools than the Beef and Dairy Council. The 4 food groups was created by the Beef and Dairy Councils. And suddenly what happened was I sort of started to think that everything I had been told to that point was false, or there was another story. And I just became curious. It wasn't one big event, but it was a series of little things along the way that just made me more and more and more curious. Then college. There's so much defunding of education in America. I know because I played for those people. But whose education has been defunded.
Sure.
What are you talking about? But there was a community college in my hometown, and it had only opened a few years earlier. And had it not been there, I don't know that I would have gone, to a university or tried to get into a university. But it was there, and I went, and I met these professors that were just. I mean, I couldn't wait to go. I mean, I didn't like algebra and whatever else, but there were professors, sociological issue professors, and journalism. My and creative writing professor taught 2 days a week at San Quentin Prison. And if you can draw him out, he would tell stories about that. And he had been injured in World War II and told stories about that. And so there was this whole world beyond just I don't want to disparage watching TV, but just watching TV and playing football and going to the mill. Mm-hmm. And little by little, these little doors were open for me, and it was very exciting. And I went through life trying to be more and more curious and try to be better with each day and try to be smarter. And in the end, little did I know it would ruin my career in show business, because better you're confused of who's a redneck and who's not. That's better for you than what I'm trying to do.
I think the country is catching up, though, now, because everything's sort of falling apart and people have nowhere to look anymore. They have to look inside, and they have to look at why it's not working. What role does comedy have in today's world? Like, how can satirical comedy, what place does it have in society today? Like, because people lost satire for a while. There was no satire, and I feel like it's coming back now. There's no irony, and there was no satire, none in the media, and now maybe it's coming back. I believe that a satirical person is somebody who actually loves what they're talking about and wants to make a point because they love it.
I have jokes in my act that I wrote 3 days ago that I'll probably be doing in a couple of nights. And as my wife will tell you, I try to ad-lib 20 or 30% of my set every time. If I'm doing a 45-minute set, I want to do 15 minutes up front about the guy's shirt and what's happening in the room and what happened this week. I like to do all those types of things. But then I like to try and push as far as I can. But, a couple of things have happened. One, everything is commodified now. You said it earlier. I mean, everybody just wants easy. No one wants to read a newspaper. No one wants to watch a news show on TV. And this has happened in entertainment, too. People want to they want to know what they're going to see. They want it to be very easy and very simple. And understandably, they're about to get foreclosed on their house. Their wife lost her job. The kid's sick. They worked hard. They're going out on Friday or Saturday night. They maybe don't want to hear a guy talking about that. Maybe.
Right,
So
right.
I understand that. At the same time, another thing has happened. I think we're more polarized now than at any time probably since maybe the Vietnam War. I mean, I was only a child then, but I mean, we really are. We've got these. You can go into a room and you've got someone, me, who listens primarily to National Public Radio and watches PBS and whatnot, and you can go into a room with another person who watches Fox News only, hates newspapers and media. So you're going to go into that room and you're telling them things. What is it, 30%? I don't know the figure. A large figure of people who get their news primarily from Fox still believe that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction or some crazy malarkey such as that. And so you're going into the room making a joke, and this guy doesn't know what you're talking about. He thinks you're crazy. He thinks you're insane. Right. When I was a kid and you were a kid, what you watched on a Friday night and what I watched were pretty much the same as the family next door. Were they black? Were they white? Were they educated? Were they uneducated? Were they Mexican? Whatever. It was all. I remember it was a Brady Bunch. It was a Partridge Family. It was the Odd Couple.
Right.
And so we came together, even though we were in our own homes, we came together communally. Now we're in these homes across the street from people or one county over, and we have absolutely nothing in common. Absolutely nothing in common. So you arrive to a club or a fundraiser or a theater in their town, and unless you're famous, it's tricky because you don't see eye to eye on anything, or you have no common interests.
And what do you learn as a comedian to come into a room? How do you read the room? You come in and right away, what goes through your mind? What can I do? What can I pull? How do I get out of here?
Can I get a shot of bourbon, please, backstage?
Sure.
Well, the first thing you do if you're smart, and I've not been smart enough to do this a lot, pick and choose your rooms. There are rooms, even in the Bay Area, there are towns and there are rooms where the audience comes, they're more progressive, they're more literate, they come to be challenged and provoked. And you can go literally 2 towns over, and that's not happening at this other room, which caters to a different type of comedy.
Right.
And so the first thing is pick the rooms where you're going to have a chance, and then the second thing is, I never have I'm still making, we talk about growing, we're still growing 25 years later. I go to these rooms and sometimes I grab the mic and I barge right out and say, what's with these morons who, and I barge right in and I'm angry about something. Sure. And other times I go in and do you do this? You try to maybe feel them out, get them laughing, get them on your side.
Sure.
And I've been doing this 20 odd years and I can't figure out which is the better technique. One night one way, one night the next way, I don't know.
That's the thing about doing stand-up. You never really know. You never have it down. I mean, you can be very successful, but you still don't have it down because it's a live experience.
Sure.
You're a living person on stage. Now,
and just to touch on that real quickly, people who are professional, famous comedians, when they go somewhere, everybody in the room knows what they're doing. Everybody, a friend of mine opened for Dennis Miller last week in the Modesto somewhere. Everybody in that room knew what they were getting.
Right.
And I went to see Bill Maher a while back at the Symphony Hall in San Francisco, and everybody in the room knew what they were getting. Right. So it's the job of the unknown, unprofessional comedian is so much harder because at any given night, you've got to, first of all, you got to prove that you have any talent or skill at all. They're just like, you get this. And then if you're going to take them somewhere outside of their world, it's tough to do because they didn't come to be taken. So you have to be tricky.
You've had some really interesting experiences and interesting paths. If you said to me, this guy is going to win the San Francisco comedy competition, a comedy competition, I wouldn't immediately jump to you because it's a very generic kind of competition where the idea is to score points and to get audiences to go crazy over what you're doing. And you've always been like one of the funniest people ever, but just the constraints of that, you have to be a certain way. How did you get through that experience? And what is it? And tell us, if you can remember, what are some of the things you said? What was in the act at that point?
I believe it or not, it was almost 20 years ago. If you can imagine that.
That's unbelievable.
If you can imagine that.
Oh my God.
But I can remember it perfect. I can remember it exactly. There were 3 subsets at that time. There was it was the end. I think Clinton was going up against Bush at that time, was the first. So it was a very political. The last 12 years have been pure dookie, was that category. And then the next category was, I used to call Americans are fat, violent, and lazy. It was fast food, drive-up windows. This bit was written one day during one of these many oil crisis situations we have, and gas goes up $2, and everyone's screaming and yelling about the price of gas. And I'm on my bicycle, and I count 13 cars lined up at a drive-up window. And so I loop back on my bicycle, and I pull the doors open to the restaurant. They open fine. And there are these people sitting there, and I just thought to myself, can you imagine having to explain? I'd love to have some big, fat Midwestern American have to explain to somebody from the third world the idea that somebody so gluttonous and pampered that they think they should sit in an 8-cylinder vehicle idling for 15 minutes to have fried food shoved in their window. And so I pedaled home like a maniac, and I just scribbled notes. I never write jokes. I never write jokes when I write. I just write what I was angry about, and I wrote it out. And that became a big fast food drive-up window where they go, quiet down now. Where should I begin the story, boy? From the beginning, my friend. All right. Somebody else grew the food. Some brown people we brought in from another nation that treat like crap. And it just goes on and like that, Why don't you get out of the car, my friend? Well, because the car's air conditioned and the building's air conditioned, but the 6 or 8 feet in between the two, where I might be mildly uncomfortable or worse yet, burn a calorie. I'm on the no burn a calorie ice cream and pork ribs diet. And so I just embodied these people and just went crazy. And that was fast food drive-up window. There was a Meat Lovers commercial where we kicked in the door. They kicked in the door of the Vegetarian Society and mocked them with their Meat Lovers pizza. And at that time, 2 of the world's top 3 triathletes were vegans. It's one of the healthiest. I'm not here to sell it to you, but it's a very healthy lifestyle. And just the irony of that, it's the lie they were telling. So I went home and wrote a bit about it. Don't be a pansy. Eat Meat Lovers. It's a gooey, greasy hoof and antler death pyramid. What's on there? Who knows? Beef, chicken, weasel, lemur, chihuahua, meerkat, yak, armadillo. You'd have to melt cheese over the zoo and give everybody forks to get this much toxic poison in one pie. I'll have a slice. So it was just this big giant bit about. So it was all that stuff and donuts and just jokes about donuts, fast food, drive-up windows, donuts. We invented the donut because. And what is the donut? Fried cake. Apparently, cake wasn't unhealthy enough for America. Honey, I got one artery half open. Let's say we close that son bitch by 5 o'clock. How we gonna do that, dear? Why don't we heat up some lard and toss the cakes in there? That ought to give it a try. Put some. How many do you want, dear? 1 or 2? What are you, pansy? I want a dozen in a greasy pink box. Put some of that buttercream frosting and cancer-causing artificial doohickeys on the top. While you're at it, goddamn. Every bit ended up with a heart attack.
Artificial doohickeys. I don't think
colored-
I've ever heard doohickeys.
Artificial colored jasperines and doohickeys.
Jasperines.
And then the final end of it was, at that time, 2 of the nation's 3 networks refused to air condom ads. And this is when AIDS is out of control in the United States, and the network that did allow it only allowed it if they only emphasized disease prevention, not birth control. It's just madness. And so I just got on and talked about growing up and how this harms people. And then I've taken risks as a young man that could have altered and changed or maybe ruined my life because I was afraid. I lived in a small town, and you don't want to go to the one store. Hello, Mr. Jenkins. Can I have a condom up there? All right. What kind you want? Any kind. Just hurry up. All right. Hey, aren't you Grace and Tony's son, Johnny? You run down the street. And I try to emphasize how you discourage people when you demonize sex and so this was the set I did, if you can imagine. But of course, the finals were in Santa Cruz Mountains, San Francisco's Warfield Theater, and the Marin Civic Auditorium. So were the finals in Oklahoma, Tuscaloosa, and North Dakota, I probably would not have been remotely successful. But those were the bits that I wrote, and those are the bits, many of those have stuck with me. I mean, not the political stuff, because of course that era ended, but those bits are still in my act, some of those bits still today, because they say exactly what I want to say.
But in character. But in character and come to life.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it.
And the other answer to your question is, a comic once said, whenever you're in trouble, big times loud equals success, or dumb times plus loud equals success. I'm a big guy. I'm a physical guy. I'm an ex-jock guy. So I grab the mic and go. Yeah. And I take no prisoners. And it's, and so you get caught up in the energy of it too.
Well, the one thing, we talked about this years ago, and we're going to, we talked about this, and it was your interest in environmentalism and ecology. We talked about a character who was a telecologist.
Oh, yeah.
So he was a televangelist with an ecological message. Yeah. And I always thought that would be so great for you. And you were writing this book. Do you remember the book? It was Nickels and Pickles. What is
Yeah.
that? Tell them
Nickels
what
and
it
pickles
is.
was, you turn on the news or you read the newspaper and there's some conservative politician saying we pay too much taxes. We pay lower taxes than any industrialized nation, and we pay lower taxes than we've ever paid. Those are facts. You can Google them up. Yet every two or 4 years, our election becomes an auction for which inbred Yahoo is going to lower your taxes another 3 cents. And the people are duped and thinking, well, I'm going to save $1. And their park closes and their school sucks and the roads got potholes and there's nobody at the EPA and all this type of stuff. So Nickels and Pickles was, I lived in San Francisco and there are a couple of bad neighborhoods, as in every city. And there was a neighborhood and I walked through and I just saw the most children living, and I'm not a parent. I'm not a fan of children. I joke that even now that if you're going to make abortion illegal, you're not going to make it illegal for me and my wife. You're going to make it illegal for poor people. I mean, really. I mean, if my wife gets pregnant, it means not only she gets an abortion, but she gets a week in Sweden. You see? And so every year she's going to be having an abortion. Honey, I'm again? Yeah, Stockholm is beautiful in the fall. Damn you, And I say a lot of people believe abortion should be legal in the first trimester. I go further. I think it should be legal in the first semester of high school, because that's when they're annoying and they've got the acne and they're taking your car. So, but I would walk through the Tenderloin and I would see these kids living in a place that I was uncomfortable walking through in the daytime. All sorts of crime, drugs, whatever. And I'd open the paper and people say, well, these people are leeches or we pay too many taxes. And so I tried to do it on stage, but I couldn't make it work. And I had an idea about a kid, and he was just from his point of view and all the stuff he saw that day. And he saw a dog, I think, named Pickles, and he saw somebody, giving somebody a handful of nickels, and that was sort of the title of the story. And it was basically, I walked through and I just made notes of all the things I saw. And I don't remember the exact rhyme, but it was just from a kid's point of view of all the things he saw, and they were horrors.
Yeah.
They were horrors. You read this book, this is what a kid in that neighborhood and in thousands of neighborhoods in America see, and this is what he sees. And do you want to do something about it, or do you want to just keep screaming that the Cheneys and the Rockefellers should pay lower taxes next year?
Well, I
So
think
that's where it came
I
from.
think what happened, is but you mentioned the food pyramid was created by the Beef Council. It was
The
somebody
four food groups was originally,
somebody
I believe.
created
Yeah.
that. Now they've changed it. Now it's the half. It's the plate that has half vegetables and half whatever. And I don't know who's doing that. But somebody makes these things up.
Sure.
The movie industry was invented by garment workers, by garment people.
Sure.
And
amusement parks were created by electricity companies and trolley company. They wanted to bring people to ride the trolleys. Nobody rode the trolleys on the weekends. So they would build a park out in the woods somewhere, and people would hop the trolleys, and they'd ride the trolleys, and they'd use the electricity and whatnot. And even here, I mean, let's not, Ed, come on. This is clearly a product placement for Pure
Yep,
Drinking
it
Water.
is Pure Drinking Water. In fact, that's my
They're a
label.
sponsor.
That's my label. Ed's Pure.
Ed's Pure.
Drinking water. It'll hydrate you, and you won't sound like the Velvet Fog. No, but no, and we're going to get to something here in just a second. But it's when comfort is your number one priority, a lot of things are going to go by the wayside.
Sure.
Because you want to be comfortable. And the problem with being comfortable is you get too comfortable, you go to sleep. And as they said in My Dinner with Andre, which this conversation, they said, yeah, we're asleep, but did it ever occur to you that sleeping people cannot say no? And when you're asleep, it's very hard to wake up when you're being bombarded with all this other stuff and when when people are out of work and they're suffering and they're losing and they can't get adequate health care, it's very hard to be conscious and then shift your perspective and change the way government is done. We're coming to that because it's just not working.
Yeah, and I had, interestingly enough, Mort Saul lives in the Bay Area, and I have conversations with Mort every month or so, and we were discussing, I say, sometimes I feel like I'm taking the easy way out, because I'm just making fun of this dumb guy who believes this stupid stuff. Well, he believes this stupid stuff because he's been fed it by, sometimes there's willful ignorance, and sometimes you want to be a macho guy, so you believe that you've done everything yourself or whatever. But this, I have had people who are anti-government. I mean, Rick Perry. Take Rick Perry. Public elementary school, public junior high school, public university. For about 8 or 10 years, his family got subsidies from the federal government to not grow crops on their land to keep prices stable. And then he's received a government paycheck for the last 25 or 30 years. And he's anti-government spending and anti-government handouts. I mean, how do you not write jokes about these kind of guys? But Mort and I were discussing that sometimes I feel bad making fun of that poor dumb guy because he's a product of what he's been exposed to. I mean, it's our fault that he didn't have great schools. It's our fault that we ship the jobs overseas.
Right.
It's our fault that you can get 700 channels of cable TV for $19 a month, but the library closed near his house. That's our fault. That's it's our fault that we let people the Telecommunications Act do the Fairness Doctrine. People don't know there was a time when if you had a comment from the left, you had to have a comment from the right, or so. Now that's gone. So you have towns in America where the only radio station they have, the only radio station. Yeah, it's different now with the computer. You can stream and whatnot, but the only radio station they have is some troglodyte, blaring out rubbish, and so. So it's tough because you want to attack the guy's coming at you with a broken bottle. You want to protect yourself from him. On the other hand, he got there from some maybe not from doing of his own, maybe.
Well, that's what we do have in common. What people have in common is they're trying to take care of themselves. They're trying to take care of their families. They're trying to get their the basic life needs met, and that everybody tries to do in some way.
Sure. And unfortunately, some people have been led to believe that the way that they can do that is by putting homosexuals on a bus and driving them off a cliff for some insane reason.
I don't know.
Whoever they don't like.
That policy is never. I mean
these are
understand.
distractions. I mean, we're getting off this subject of comedy, but these are distractions. These people are sold distractions because if you're completely concerned that the homosexual down the street, or that some inoculation your daughter might get, or some immigrant who's coming here to clean the toilet in the hotel that you go to, if those are the boogeymen, then you're never going to wonder, well, what happened to the middle class? Why did Johnny Steele's dad graduate from a good high school, go across the street, get a job driving a truck, became a salesman, and bought a house and put kids through college? Why is that impossible now for two white-collar people in some areas to do? Sure. Because the schools collapse. And so if they're worried about the boogeyman crawling in the window that doesn't really exist, if they for a moment they look online, you can look online in 2 seconds, go to the U.S. Congressional Record Office and find out where the money's gone. The money's gone, this much of the money has gone to the wars, this much of the money has gone to tax cuts, and this is where we would normally be if we didn't have those things, probably maybe 3/5. So they don't either have access to that or they don't care or something, and so then they're angry, but they're not angry at the right people. They're angry, and so then I get angry at them, which it's a vicious cycle. What it ends up in? I come down here and do these jokes and I don't get booked. That's what happens. In the end, I'm the guy.
You're the bad guy. It's another kind of food pyramid.
Absolutely.
It really is.
I'm in the food line. That's why.
The bread line. Well, now I want to ask you, I wish we had more time, but I want to ask you, we do something on the show that's, I don't know why we do it, but we do it, the Fast Five. And it's just 5 questions that are unrelated.
All right.
And just no right or wrong. And 60 seconds you have to answer all the questions. But,
I need deadlines so I don't get things done.
You need the deadline, and you'll have the question. 60 seconds.
I'll try to be more humorous here. I think I got a little too serious.
No, listen, that's why I like doing a show like this, because we know you're funny. But I want to hear about who you are and about what what your life is.
I'm a 57-year-old black woman wearing a dress under this.
Well, you look good to me. Mm-hmm. All right. Anyway, all right. So
suddenly you both launched into Pearl Bailey.
I don't know why it was Pearl Bailey.
I don't know.
My great grandma. All right. So okay. So question number 1.
Right.
60 seconds on the clock, please.
All right.
Thank you.
Ready?
So question number 1. How do you explain today's world to Jesus?
How do you explain today's world to Jesus? You say, Jesus, I don't know what they're thinking. They must have read the wrong passages.
Okay. Question number 2. Something you wish you'd invented.
A more successful stand-up routine. One that placated the masses.
Wait.
My wife says it's Asian humor. That's what's successful. Masturbation, defecation, inebriation, copulation, amplification. That's what I wish I invented. Yes, nation.
I'm going to do a spit take. I'm going to time it.
All right.
What's the best bad movie you've ever seen?
Best bad movie. Oh my God, that's a tough one. Best bad movie. Pass. Next one.
Okay. Favorite time in history other than in this interview?
Favorite time in history other than this interview. You look to your childhood as a time, don't you? Look to your childhood as it's a wonderful time, and then you realize that like an uncle would come over, hi Pete, and he'd fall over dead from a heart attack at 32, and the Negroes were being hosed down on the street corner, and you realize I was having a swell time, but it wasn't so good for everybody.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't the best.
And by Negroes, of course, I'm putting it in the contextual. I don't want a lot of letters from people practicing what I call black Artheism. But I have a black friend, I love him, but he practices black Artheism. There's a racist under every bed, and quite frankly, and all my black comics, I love you dearly. funny, but really, the last time most black comics were inside of a black woman's vagina is when they were born. So this is a kind of frank humor. My wife now just said I launched into.
It's a little bit. It's frank.
This is going to be edited out, right?
No.
All
This is the bootleg.
right. All right. I don't have time for all the races. I would touch on all the races had we had time, but somehow
We will.
We got onto that.
Well, we'll get into
Bailey
it.
thing.
We'll get into it. All right. So now this is my favorite question, and I ask everybody this because I really want to know: who killed JFK?
I was nowhere near it. I was 3 years old, and it was November. I was in school.
And you went into a delicatessen, and then you went into the Texas School Book Depository, which you normally would after you would eat your lunch.
Absolutely.
And you saw a man who looked like the actor Gary Oldman.
I noticed it was a Texas School Book Depository. Wasn't nobody picking up books. Where can I get rid of these sons of bitches? All right.
We went back to that guy. That guy has appeared now. He's cross-cultural now.
Absolutely. He's got
right.
a lot of different bits in my routine. Because,
All right. Well, you
that's
know,
the kind of irreverent humor that you'll see if you want to be disappointed.
I am so happy. I'm so happy to see you, and I thank you for doing this, for coming in here.
Thank you.
It's
It
great
was,
to have you.
wonderful.
Stay there.
We're going to
Stay
stay
there.
These kids are great.
They're amazing. We're gonna come back. We'll have Ginger and Khalil. We'll do another song. But I want to show you Johnny on a show we did in San Francisco with a great little story about his other LA experiences. Take a look at this, and then we'll have more from Ginger and Khalil, and then we'll put a bow on this puppy.
And I had an audition where it was a Japanese potato chip commercial. And they said, you've got 30 seconds to act like a funny chicken, ready to go. And now, understand, I'm staying in like Santa Monica. I drove to whatever those towns are. They're like 900 degrees and look like Concord. And you know, and I'm in a room with like 800 guys who are all just like going back and forth like this in the room. You know, those guys. They want the Japanese potato chip commercial like shit they do, you know? And so they finally call me in. Johnny is with Peter, and there's two Japanese guys, and then two guys. I always thought there'd be an old guy with a cigar. But there's, you know what it is. There's like two guys who look like Doogie Howser.
Right.
And, you know, and the kid in the Christmas Story. And they're sitting there, hey, old man. And so, go. You got 30 seconds. And so I'm walking around the room. And so then I walk like 2 blocks, and I get in my car, and I pay. In LA, you'd think it's sprawled out over 800 fucking miles, you'd think there's some place to park. But no. You go walk 3 blocks, and your 4th light's up, and there's a valet that wants like a Cougar Rand or some shit. And so I'm driving. Oh, and surprise, there's traffic. It'll take me 9 hours to get where I'm going. And I turn on NPR, sweet Jesus. If I can strum my guitar, or pet my dog, or turn on Tom Waits or NPR. So I turn on NPR, and there's a story about, this is true, there's a story about doctors who go like into war zones and they take 2 weeks off of work and they pay for the nurses because the nurses don't have the money. And they go into war zones and they fix kids who got blown off legs and cleft palates and whatnot. And there's just you're crying, and I'm thinking, I'm coming back for a commercial where I was acting like a chicken to try to get what kind of life do I have? And I don't remember the freeways, but there's just a place where it's like San Diego, San Francisco. And it's like Shirley MacLaine is in the car. The wheels are going. Go home! Go home! Go home! Go home! I swear to God, it's not true.
That was a beautiful piece, and that was in a show we did at the Throckmorton Theater in Mill Valley, and Johnny was great doing that. And now welcome back to LA. All right, the city that always sleeps. Right now, let's have more music. Let's go back to Ginger and Khalil and see what you guys are cooking up. Does this require any special setup, or should I wear special
Other than
clothing?
the fact that this is another do jiggy that Ginger wrote, that we just had to get that in there.
The Doojiggee and the Jasperines.
I love the Jasperines. I want some.
All right.
It's going to be my next song, the Jasperines.
Okay. Well, here's Ginger Smith and Khalil Saban with another great tune.
Thanks again, Ed.
Sure.
I'm waiting for you to come through. Oh, I'm waiting for you to come through. Yeah, and do all the things you know you ought to do. Yeah, well, you took me from my mama's home, said you'd do me right. Now I sit here all alone every day and night, just waiting for you to come through. Oh, I'm waiting for for you to come through.
For you to come through.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to come through.
For you to come through.
Oh, and do all the things you know you ought to do, yeah. I heard what the preacher said. He said, love until the day you die. The way you make me feel, I'm already on the other side, just waiting for you to come through. Yeah, I'm waiting for you to come through.
For you to come through.
I'm waiting for you to come through.
For you to come through.
Yeah, and do all the things you know you ought to do, yeah. Well, I don't want to fuss and fight. You're never gonna get that from me. My backside as I'm walking out the door, the only thing you're gonna see, 'cause I'm done waiting for you to come through. Oh, yeah, I'm done waiting for you to come through.
For you to come through.
I ain't waiting for you to come through.
For you to come through.
And do all the things you know you ought to do. Can you hear me? I'm done waiting for you to come through.
For you to come through.
I ain't waiting for you to come through, yeah. Do all the things you know you ought to. Do all the things you know you ought to. Do all the things you know you ought to do.
Woo! All right. Well, that was so great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My God, terrific. Ginger Smith, Khalil Saban, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
Pleasure.
for having us.
A pleasure,
Thank
really.
you. It was great, thanks.
A lot of fun. And Johnny Steele, thanks again for coming in,
Thank you.
for skying in. No, you
Yeah.
drove in. And I have to, let's see. Well, I want to thank everybody who's been involved with the show. I want to thank Brandon Limer, and I want to thank Erica Sender. I want to thank Matt Raub and Kevin Pollack and Jason Kalkanis. Thanks, everybody. This is show 55 right here. And we'll see you soon. I don't know, do we have any, maybe a little traveling music to guys? Just something underneath, anything, really. It doesn't matter. Because we should go out on music, I feel. I blew it
Do that
because...
again.
I blew it. Well, no, just any kind of little noodling thing. Yeah.
Ed
Yeah.
Crasnick show.
Yeah,
Ed
yeah,
Crasnick show.
that's what we need.
Oh, yeah. He's the
Gotta give
Ed.
it up for Ed Crasnick show.
Ed Crasnick, oh, yeah. Humor me.
Thanks for
Why
watching
don't you
Humor Me. Keep
humor
coming back. It
me,
works if you work it. I'm Ed
Humor me.
Crasnick.
Why don't
See you next time.
humor me, yeah.
Gotta give it up for
Oh.
Ed.